Hi fantasy managers and welcome to FPL Team Talks. In this video I have put together a wildcard side for game week 30. I'm going to go through the pros and cons of using a wildcard and then have a look at the team, go through some options. So if you enjoy these sort of videos, please give it a like, don't forget to subscribe, and in the meantime, let's take a look. I'm going to go through some of the reasons then why you might want to be using your wildcard, and I am basing this wildcard around the fact that you do not have your free hit chip. I have my wildcard and I'm not going to use it in game week 30. I possibly might use it in 31. If there are lots of injuries over the international break, then maybe I will be forced to use it in 30. But one of the reasons why I'm not using it in 30 is my side is quite well set up. I do have my Spurs players that I was using in game week 29 because I didn't free hit then. So I don't really want to lose those for Luton at home. But if on a free hit, I don't think I want to keep them longer term either. The other problem is you have Manchester City versus Arsenal in this game week. And I don't really want to bring in loads of players from Man City and Arsenal for the fixture between them. But on a wild card, I do want those players because I'm setting up for the rest of the season to hit those doubles. So there's quite a few reasons why I don't want a free hit in game week 30. I'm undecided whether to, not free hit, got a wild card in game week 30. I'm undecided as to whether I need to in 31. And the longer I leave it, I think the better position or more information I'll have for those doubles in 34 and 37, which we should know before the deadline passes for game week 30. So we should know all of those doubles, but when I talk about more information just about which players are available, who perhaps has got things to play for, suspensions, injuries, all that sort of thing kicking in. So for that reason, I'm just holding off my wildcard for as long as I can, and I don't need it for game week 30. However, if you do not have Spurs players, if you have just free hit in 29 and there's a few injury doubts and you want to get back onto Liverpool players for Brighton at home in Sheffield United, then I think it's a perfectly viable reason to a wild card in game week 30. So with that in mind, let's have a look at some of the players that I have put together. First one, I can't even say his first name, but I'm going to go for just Kelleher. 3.8, cheap as chips. He looks, I think it was, whilst we don't know when Alisson is back, I really like Kelleher. I think he's a great choice. Third best defence they've got. Brighton, Sheffield United and Palace, 3 home games in the next 4 games. They look good. And also Liverpool will likely double later on in the season against Fulham and Everton, possibly both away. So decent fixtures coming up for them. Obviously everything to play for. Alongside him, I would go for Petrovic as well. He's keeping Sanchez at the side at the moment. Again, Chelsea have 2 potential doubles later on in the season. 2 or 3 games at home again. Burnley, Man United and Everton. Their defence isn't as bad as perhaps people think. 7th and overall. And actually, he dovetails quite nicely with, if we go back and just have a look, when Kelleher plays away at Manchester United, then Petrovic has Sheffield United at home. So that dovetails quite nice. And he does have more doubles. So keeping with the Chelsea theme, I think Malo Gusto has got to be up there as well. His fixtures look decent, and he does have a really good attacking threat, 0.31, one of the best in the league. Oh, really good. He started 9 out of the last 10. But the fact that Reece James is not about just makes him pretty much nailed in that position. A 4.2, it's just cheap as chips. I don't think we can really turn him down. Most of his threat is through assists, but I don't mind that. And with those home games, you would expect Burnley and Everton at home, Sheffield United away. There's possibly 1 or 2 clean sheets and attacking returns for Chelsea there. Gusto could be a really good player. A little bit controversial. I've gone for Nathan Ake in defence. I still want a Manchester City defender. I still think they're the second best defence in the league. For the Arsenal game, I'll be possibly benching him. But then you've got Villa and Luton. And Ake started 12 out of the last 13. Likely double in game week 37. Second best defence. I can put him on the bench for Arsenal. I could play another defender if you want to, but then I just don't want a wild card and then having to book a transfer of bringing someone like Ake in later down the line. So I'd rather just put him on the bench for now. I just think he's really good. He just pop up with the odd attack and return. For someone who doesn't really find himself that far forward, I guess just from the nature of Man City sort of parking the bus outside the opposition's box, he does find himself getting forward and set pieces. 2 goals, 3 assists. Pretty decent for Ake. Decent return. You'd take that. Not the cheapest, but he is the second best defence. I just think I want Nathan Ake, a Man City defender in there. Tossed up between Porro and Udogie. And in the end, I think I've just gone with Udogie just because he is quite a bit cheaper now. One time there wasn't a lot between them. but I do think he is a lot cheaper now. In the short term, his fixtures are really good. Long term, he don't have the doubles further down the line, but he has got an attacking return. Luton and Forest at home just look too good to turn down. So for me, Udogie just pips Porro. If I had the money, I think, yeah, I'll go for Porro. But right now, I think I'd just go for Udogie. Gabriel has to get that slot in the Arsenal defence. No reason to pay the extra, I don't think, for Saliba. I think he's just as absolutely nailed as anyone else. Obviously, you've got the fixture of Man City away. You bench him for that. Luton, Brighton, Villa, don't mind that. Best defence in the league. Arsenal, I want Gabriel in there. Has a bit of attacking threat as well from set pieces, as we know. Throwing a bit of curveball. There's not many defenders I like who sort of guarantee clean sheets, but I do like Aït-Nouri. He does have a bit of attacking threat, and he is, with Wolves' problems, he was playing up front in the FA Cup, so I just wonder whether or not, having scored in that FA Cup game with not many attacking options, whether he could potentially be playing a lot further forward. So he's played the last 6, and if he is, as a defender, fixtures I wouldn't say are amazing the way at Villa, wouldn't expect much there. Possibly Burnley, West Ham and Forest look good. Not sure how many clean sheets I'll get, but with the attacking returns and the defender playing up front for 4.5, not sure I can turn that down. So Aït-Nouri's a bit of the wild card. I've put him in as a bit of a punt. Can bench him for 4.5. I wouldn't mind definitely benching him for Villa, but Burnley, West Ham at home, Forest, why not? Especially if he's playing very far forward. Saka, we'll have to keep an eye on him. He has withdrawn from the England squad. One of those players that just seems to churn out all the time, though. His data is just brilliant all season. On pens, and the good news is he doesn't seem to be handing them out willy-nilly like he was before. He isn't cheap, but he's just been brilliant. Nailed. Underlying stats have been great all season. For me, he just has to be a must. And the other one that just looks, I feel like there's a bit of risk with this. If I wanted to be safer, I'll go for Odegaard, but that is a little bit more expensive. We're talking about 1.3 million more. Kai Havertz, his underlying stats, I wouldn't say are very exciting, but he has got 8 goals, 5 assists in 20 games this season. He's got 8 returns in the last 6 games, so perhaps those figures are a bit skewed from earlier on in the season. He does start up front. He's listed in the midfielder, 8 from the last 9. I just think he's worth a punt. He's clearly number one choice for Arteta up front at the moment. And if he continues there, and you think he is going to continue, there's no reason to think he's not. Wow, what a differential and good pick he could be. I think if I was wildcarding, he'd be one of the players that I'll be looking at. The other one I think has to come in is Mo Salah. Yeah, he's not cheap. He's the most expensive midfielder in the game. But again, the fixtures look brilliant. He looks absolutely nailed. He's on pens. His data is just unreal. Just forget how good he is sometimes. And he's got 168 points and he's missed a whole host of games recently. He just has to come in. I don't think, even though the price is expensive, I think he's just got to be worth it. Talking the value for money, I think Cole Palmer still has to come into the side. 142 points. He's been brilliant. Fixtures, as we mentioned before, for Chelsea are decent. A possible 2 sets of doubles coming up and further down the line as well. On pens, not much to not like about him. He comes in. And the other one, again, probably play on a bench a fair bit. He's got 2 decent fixtures, and then after that, I think he's going to be benched. But you can get away with doing that. But his fixtures, short term, look decent. Away at Forest, then Bournemouth. Underlying stats look good. It's just perhaps the risk of him never being fit. If he's fit, he plays 90 minutes, set pieces, pens. I think he'd just be benched after that. But 6 million, I think he's a good option and a good differential. Moving up front, I think Solanke keeps his place. You could definitely go for Muniz, and I think there's a case for that. But I do like Solanke's underlying stats and the fact that he's got 2 home games coming up. He's on pens. There is a little bit of a question mark about his fitness, but he still seems to be wheeled out, even though he's got this sort of underlying knee problem they talk about. Everton Palace at home. Man U at home isn't one I'll be afraid of either. And Luton away. They all look like they've got really good potential for Bournemouth to score. Muniz is a lot cheaper. He'd save you a lot of money. So if you wanted to, you could go for someone like Muniz, and then you could upgrade possibly, and as they did something like a Bowen. That gives you flexibility. For me, I think I'm quite happy to go with Solanke. Up front then, I think the 2 are pretty obvious. I've got to go for Darwin Núñez when he's got Brighton at home, Sheffield United at home, and Palace at home with 3 of the next 4. And his underlying stats has been brilliant all season. So he's had a really good season. You'd still say he's quite wasteful, but it feels like he's been a little bit more clinical in front of goal more recently. But when you've got 17 games and he got 20 returns. It's hard to be that critical of him. He's definitely Liverpool's #1 choice up front. And if that's the case, Brighton at home, Sheffield United at home, I don't think I'd want to miss out. He just looks like a real solid pick up front. Possibly a captaincy option. I think probably I'd go for Salah instead in the next 2 games. But otherwise, he looks really good. And then finally, no prizes. I think Erling Haaland has to come in. We'll have to keep an eye on that reported knee injury he pulled out of training in the Norway game. But otherwise, he just has to go. But I don't want to, again, go without him and then end up always planning to bring him in. I'm not going to want to go in, I think. Villa at home would still, with their high line, I'd still want to play him in that. Palace away is obviously a game I wouldn't mind playing him in. And Luton at home, I do not want to go into a game without Erling Haaland playing in that match. Arsenal at home, I could probably live without, but I don't want to wildcard and then book a transfer straight in. So the side as it would end up looking like on paper, I think I'd bench Havertz, Gabriel and Ake. You're playing 8 Nori, which isn't ideal. I'm captaining Salah. Saka and Haaland both got penalties for their respective sides. So that looks fun. If you desperately wanted to, I think you could drop Haaland, Ake, go for someone else, and then maybe not play 8 Nori. But all in all, I quite like it. The team value I've got is 103.4. It will actually might end up being very different because of the existing players you've got. In my existing side, I've obviously got Saka and Palmer and quite a lot of money invested in them already in Solanke. So actually, my team value is a lot more than that. There are ways that we looked at. Muniz coming in instead of Solanke to save money. If you want to go up to a Doggy or then increase Eze, you can do. Salah feels to me like he has to play. If you go without him, I think he can really be punished. If you want to go Son or something like that instead, that's fine. But as we said at the start of the video, one thing I don't like about this is that Tottenham have got a great fixture and you would expect them to score goals against Luton at home. But we don't want them longer term because they don't have the doubles later down on the season. So, but you could, if you wanted to, take out the likes of Saka if you wanted to, or Havertz, and put in a Maddison or Son, and then revert back next week. But I just don't like. It doesn't feel right to do a wild card and then straight away be transferring players out. But that, in essence, would be my wild card for game week 30. That's it for this one then, guys. Let me know in the comments below who you are going to bring into your wildcard team. And if you are wildcarding, or are you going to use it for another week? In the meantime, I'll come back at you with team selection videos, watch lists, all that good stuff. So in the meantime, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, like if you found that useful, and I'll speak to you soon.